Awesome. Thank you everybody for joining us. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're still figuring out hosting on Zoom, so we're getting this going. So if you have any questions on today's webinar, well, I guess first I should introduce us, shouldn't I? My name is Lynn. I am a customer service rep here at WarmlyYours, and I'm joined by one of our amazing technical guys.
I'm Scott. Thank you for joining, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions on today's presentation, please feel free to type them in the chat. If we don't see them right away, we'll definitely get to them by the end of the presentation. So jumping right in, we want to talk about our floor heating products first, especially our Tempstone product, because this is definitely one of our best sellers and is a very, very popular floor heating product. So Tempstone is compatible with most flooring types: tile, stone, hardwood, LVT, nailed wood, things like that. It's also available in shower floor mats, shower bench mats. So there are lots of different products available. Can you tell us a little bit more, Scott, about what Tempstone is and when you would use it?
Yeah, I know one of our, we always send out questions in advance for people to ask or request for questions. And we did get a question this time before our webinar actually started up, and that's good. And that is, can I heat in showers? And the answer to that is this product that we see on the screen right now is wet location listed. So yes, you can use it in showers. And that's what's great about this. And it's very, very versatile. Depending on how it's installed, it can be used with just about any type of flooring. And if you're thinking about doing something that's a little bit easier, like a stretch-in carpet application or laminate, we've got a different product for that. It would make it even easier to install. But this thing can be used pretty much wherever. It's only 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's embedded in 3/8 to a 1/2 inch of thinset or self-leveling. So you really don't have to take that height into account at all, because it's really just embedded in that layer that you're going to be putting down. So it's a great product. It's waterproof. It's wet location listed. It can be used to almost anywhere except outside.
Definitely. And can you actually go back to that last
Oh,
slide,
sure.
Scott? Looking at this picture, I think this is a good example of the two kind of main options you have with Tempstone. You have our cut and turn mats or our loose cable. And then on the next slide, you'll kind of see the different options for the cable installation. So can you kind of walk us through what your choices are when doing a cable installation?
Yeah, cable installations do not require an under or a membrane. Some systems out there, the only way that you can install it is using a membrane, but not every floor requires a membrane to be used. So sometimes there's no use to having that added expense, and that's why you can use the cable fixing strips and save yourself a lot of money. So we're going to see a little bit later when we look at pricing that you can see if you don't need to use a membrane, you can save a lot of money by not doing so. So you have two different products, two different ways of putting the cable down: with the membrane, the Perdeso membrane, or you can use the fixing strips. And the fixing strips, you just put along the perimeter of the room, and you string the cable back and forth in those strips. And then you use that to hold the cables in place, because you always want to make sure that the cables are held in place at the correct spacing. You never want to overlap them. You don't want them touching each other, because that will be a problem in the future. So both of these products are designed to keep those cables spaced the way we want them to be.
Awesome. And then looking at our other floor heating, one of our other floor heating options, we have Environ. So Environ is going to go under different types of floor than Tempzone. Can you kind of tell us where you would be utilizing the Environ product?
Yeah, the Environ product is not wet location listed, so it's not designed to go in showers. You could put it in a bathroom if you wanted to, but definitely not in a shower. I know some people that have used this with laminate in bathrooms. The thing is, it is not waterproof. It's water resistant, but it's not waterproof like the Tempzone product is. So it's to be used under carpet in the United States. Use it under laminate or floating engineered wood. You would not use this for LVT or any vinyl product. This product is not attached to anything. It's not glued down, and nothing is ever glued or attached to it. It's simply put in a layer like a sandwich, and it floats around. And that's the way the key thing is. This does not use thin set. This is not glued to. This is not glued down onto anything.
Definitely.
It comes in rolls and mats too. So if you want to do a great big area, you can do it like a big blanket and lay it out. It's about the fastest installation you can do when you're looking to heat a floor.
Yeah, it's very, very quick. So moving on to underlayments, we do get this question a lot of, do I need to insulate underneath or above the floor heating? And the answer is generally on a concrete slab, you want to be insulating with our Cerazorb, which is a synthetic cork underneath the heat. Can you kind of tell us what we're looking at here in this picture and why it shows how important Cerazorb is?
Yeah, what we're doing is we're isolating the heating wire from the concrete. The concrete wants to pull the heat down into the concrete. Well, when it's pulling that heat down into the concrete, the spot you really want to heat, which is where your feet are, that's the spot that's not getting the heat. So what you want to do is you want to put some R value between the concrete slab and the heating wire. And that's going to make the heat go upward as opposed to downward. And that's why you're putting this in anyway, right? Is you want to make sure that you have nice warm floors. If you take a look at this picture, this was a tile job that was done. And this particular area, we left out a spot where the Cerazorb was left out. So you can see that non-insulated area in the upper left-hand corner. That's where there is no Cerazorb. And see how it's blue there? That means that the heat that the wire is making is going down into the slab. All the other areas where it says insulated area, that's where the heat is coming up. So this was taken with a thermal camera, and you can see the actual difference here. And this isn't after it's being on for any long amount of time. This was just after a few minutes, and it's already 4 degrees warmer than if you don't use it. So a simple explanation is if you want temperatures into the 80s, then you use Cerazorb over concrete. If you're happy with temperatures in the 70s, sometimes the low 70s, which doesn't really feel warm at all, then you're going to be putting that directly on the concrete. That's the amount of difference that it will make. So the R value is there, a 1.5 R value. It's only a quarter of an inch thick, 6 millimeters, and it's very, very light and very easy to install. You just use, if you're doing a tile job, you use thin set, just like you would to set the tile. And you can use modified thin set, which is very easy to use, very easy to find. It's at every big box store in the world. You don't need any specialized glue or any specialized adhesive. You simply use modified thin set and that'll do the trick. But it really, really makes a big difference. Some people do use cork. You can use cork if you have a cork that's rated as an underlayment and not cork that you would put on a bulletin board. They're two different things. One is real bouncy and the other one isn't. But the thing is, if you're going to be using self-leveling, you never want to use cork. You always want to use Cerazorb because it doesn't absorb any water. And also what's great about it, since it's synthetic, it doesn't harbor or make mold grow. So it's great for wet areas because you don't have to worry about, if you're using cork, you have to worry about mold. If you're in that condition, somewhere where it's going to be wet, there's a good chance of it being wet, you definitely want the Cerazorb. So it's got a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a great product. And then our last but not least floor heating system is our indoor slab heating. And again, this is available in those cut and turn mats or in the loose cable. And this is a great product if you're going to be doing the concrete floor as the finished floor. So if you're looking at doing a stamped or a polished concrete, something like that, or you're doing a new pour or a new slab, this would be a really great option.
Yeah, if you're pouring a new slab, it's exactly what you can use. Um, when you're heating a slab, it takes longer. So it's going to be one of those things where it does take longer to heat up because you're heating 4 or 6 inches of concrete. Most of our other systems are heating 1 to 1.5 inches on the top surface. So the thinner the application, the faster it will heat, and usually the warmer it will get. But we've done many jobs where this has been put into a new concrete slab. The most important thing is if you have a 4-inch concrete slab, the cable needs to be in the middle of it. You don't want it laying on the ground. It has to be in the middle because that heat, you want to get to the top surface. So that's the most important thing when you're installing this product, is to get it up in the upper half of that, at least an inch and a half deep. But that's the sweet spot for that. Don't lay the cable down, then pour 4 or 6 inches of concrete over the top.
Definitely. So moving on to some of our what we call comfort heating products, radiant panels are I think, just an awesome product. They are really great if you are, not looking at changing the flooring. I know for me, our house is the original hardwood. I'm not pulling that up to put floor heating underneath, but it definitely can still get cold, and radiant panels are a really great option to give you some of that, again, that really warm, comfortable, radiating heat without having to do a lot of work. So can you kind of tell us how these are installed and what we're looking at here?
These are like the sun. So if you can see, like if you put these on the ceiling, the Ember Flex units can go on the ceiling. The other glass Ember units go on the wall, but these are light enough that they go up on the ceiling. So if you can see it above you and it sees you, it's like the sun. If you can see it, you're going to get warmed by it. However, if you put it in another room and then you walk through a door and you can't see it anymore, that heat's not going to be getting to you. So it's one of those things where these are great if you put them on the ceiling, because usually wherever you are in the room, you're going to be able to see them. And as long as you can see them, you're going to feel the heat from them, because it's a far infrared heat that actually heats you and then eventually heats the air secondarily. But you can control them by putting them on a simple switch if you want to. You can also use a thermostat, as shown here in this picture, to put on the wall and have it heat the room for you. If you have a large room, you may need to put one on one wall and one on the other wall, so you get the whole area to be heated. Like if you need 4, let's say that you had a gigantic room and you put 4 radiant panels on that wall, and that wall was 70 feet away, that's not the best application. You'd put one there, you'd put one over here, you'd put one over there, and one on the other side, and that would help fill the room, because you can get too far away. Ask the people that live on Pluto. If you're too far away from the sun, it's awful chilly.
Yes, it definitely can be. So looking at the actual installation or the wiring for these radiant panels, you kind of touched on this, Scott. You can use a thermostat to connect these. They can be, most can be either plugged in or hardwired. Is there anything people should be keeping in mind when it comes to the wiring and the setup for radiant panels?
No, it's very simple. It's a line voltage unit. It takes 120 volts. So you'll need a line voltage thermostat, and that thermostat is different than the one you have powering your furnace. So we do sell these thermostats, and it would heat in the exact same way as electric floor heating, but instead of having the heat coming from the floor, it's going to be coming from the wall or coming from the ceiling. But it's the same sort of idea, controlled in the same way. So you can convert them. You can cut the plug off and do a hardwired job, or you can just this box here, this outlet, you could actually put an outlet here, a duplex plug, and plug it into a duplex receptacle, I should say, and just plug it in there and have this duplex receptacle powered by a thermostat. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can either put it on a switch or you can put it on a thermostat. Both of them you can power remotely, but there is no on and off switch on them.
Yes, good to know. Looking at our towel warmers next, we do have a very wide variety of all electrical heated towel warmers. And at this point, most of our models are dual connect. Can you kind of tell us what the dual connect models are or what makes them special?
The dual connect units don't use a wall plate. There is no wall plate here that is often associated with things on the wall where they get power. Now, if you do want a wall plate, then we do have towel warmers that do hook up that way, that are hardwired. But these units can either be hardwired or they can be plug-in. They're convertible. You make the decision where you put them in, if you're going to plug them in or if you're going to hardwire them. So these are great for people that live in apartments who can put holes in their wall, but they can't put new outlets there. So the dual connect means that you can either do a line cord sticking out and plugging it in, or it can be hardwired through this leg. If you don't want to do that, we do have towel warmers that do have a wall plate that you can put over an existing outlet box or something like that that you can use too.
Yes, we have lots of options available for that. And then another one of our really great bathroom products is our LED mirrors. So we offer four models of these, and they are all what we call our marquee series of these. They do come with a touch power button it's very flush against the mirror surface. It's pretty integrated, but it is an important feature in these LED mirrors. Can you kind of tell us how these are controlled with that power button?
Yeah, you can hook them up to a light circuit that's existent, or you can leave it so it's not. So if you hook it directly to power, you just touch that button on the front. It's just actually just feels your touch, and you turn it on or off that way. Um, so that's what a lot of people do.
Awesome. And
Sorry,
then
had to clear my throat there.
no, all good. I know, I think we're all either getting sick or getting over getting sick. So looking at our countertop heaters, these are a really great luxury product again for an area that is just extra chilly. I think a lot of, stone countertops or overhangs, things like that are going to get really, really cold. And this is a simple way to add some extra comfort in those areas. So we have four sizes available. They are basically, you just stick them right on the countertop and they're good to go. Can you kind of tell us how these are wired or plugged in, like how they actually work?
Yeah, they actually they're actually peel and stick application. So it's like a giant decal or something like that. And then it sticks to the underside. And then all you have to do is you have to get it, and it plugs in like a laptop. It's got a power box and a line cord. That line cord would just plug into an outlet. Usually people put, like if it's in an island like this, people will run a hole through the back of the island where the countertop heater is, then put that outlet inside there so they can plug it in and you don't even see it. All you see, if you get down under there and you look up, you can see where the wire runs into the cabinet, and that's it. So it's very, very easy to connect. You plug it into an existing outlet, and most people just leave them on all the time because they do heat slowly. So that's why it's so good for marble and that sort of stuff. You don't turn it on, it gets really hot really fast. It heats up slowly. And because of that, it's best, usually most people tell us, to just leave it on. It doesn't use a lot of power, and it's a low voltage application. So that's where that transformer comes in. But they're very easy to install. You peel the backing off, you stick it up, and you plug it in, and all of a sudden your counter's warm.
Easy enough, definitely. And then our mirror defoggers. So these are personally one of my favorite products. I just think they're very cool. It's a really easy, economical way to, again, kind of make your bathroom feel a little bit more like a home spa. So these come ready to install. We have several different shapes. We have round, we have rectangles, and different sizes to fit most mirror types. Scott, can you kind of tell us what you want to be doing when using these mirror defoggers, what you kind of mirror you're looking for, or how you want to install it?
Yeah, it's a peel and stick again. We're into the big peel and stick thing here because it's just so easy to attach. So you would attach this peel and stick heater assembly onto the back of the mirror. And it really, for the best results, it should go on the glass because obviously a mirror is glass. It's got silver on one side and it's clear on the other. You'd want to mount this to the silver side to heat it up from the back. The thing is, this is a 120-volt system. So you can put it on your light switch. So when you turn the lights on for your room, this unit uses very, very little wattage. So it'll be on whenever your lights are on, and that way it'll always be clear. The thing about that though is it's a 120-volt system, so it does not go in a shower. It cannot go in a shower. It needs to be somewhere above your sink or somewhere like that. But they're very easy. They just wire into, there's a wire that sticks out of the back, and you wire that to your light switch, and you're ready to go.
Nice and simple. Love it. So one of the big things that we offer here at WarmlyYours that I think is what's going to make our products so easy to install are our smart plans. So if you send in a drawing of the area you're looking at heating, usually ideally from a bird's eye view with really accurate dimensions, as many dimensions as you can, we'll send back a plan that looks something like this. We can usually turn them around within about a business day, so we can get them to you very quickly. And as you can see, it's going to give you a lot of information on the installation of your specific product or your specific project with our product in your space. So you can see on this smart plan how it's actually showing, we'll show you where the mat should be starting and ending, where the thermostat needs to go, as well as how you'll be cutting and turning those mats to fit into that space.
Yeah, so if you take a look at this plan, you see at the bottom, you see a T in a circle. The T in a circle stands for the thermostat. You have to let us know where you want the thermostat because that's where the system will start. Because you can see here's the triangle. That's the beginning of the roll. So if you were to put the thermostat over here, we wouldn't put it by the end of the roll. The end is the square. You would want to put it by the triangle. So if you'd say, hey, you know what? I don't want the thermostat over here. That looks like it's a doorway. Can we put it over here by the sink? Well, then sure, you can put it there, but then this drawing has to be redone so the roll will start over here and not finish over here. So you can see that this is roll number one. It's got a one in a circle. It's got the triangle. That means it starts and it runs this way, back and forth by cutting and turning the wire or cutting and turning the mesh. You never ever cut the wire. You never ever shorten it. If you have too much, give us a call because you can't just cut a mat in half and say, okay, we just cut it in half. We're good. No, you're not. You can't do that. It's a constant wattage product. You cannot remove the resistance wire. The more resistance you remove, the more amperage you get. And the more amperage you get, the hotter it gets. So the more that you remove, the more amperage that you get, and all of a sudden you have a system that gets really, really hot. Also, it's what happens when you send 120 a mat that's 120 volts like this one, because it tells you right here, one in a circle, TRT 120. That means the thermostat has to be fed 120 volts, not 240. The thermostat doesn't take 240 and convert it into 120, or it doesn't do that. It needs, if your system is 120, you need to be sending 120 volts to it. And if you look real careful, you can see the breaker is called out here at the bottom of the smart plan. That's why they're called smart plans, is because they really try to help everybody. Here it tells you what size breaker you need and what voltage it needs to be. And it says non-GFI circuit because the GFCI protection is in the thermostat. So that's where all your information is coming from. If you look over here, it'll tell you how much it costs to operate per hour, what the total lamp draw is, what the total wattage is, what the control is that was quoted, how many watts does it use. All that information is going to be on this plan. And that's just simply coming from you making a sketch and sending it to us. We will give you all this information. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And you'll usually have it by the next day. So really, there's no really long wait for, oh, I don't want to send them because then I'm going to have to wait for 2 or 3 weeks for them to do a drawing. No, it's not like that. You send us that, we usually have the plan back for you tomorrow, unless
Yes,
it's a weekend.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, another smart plan showing the cable installation. And this is specifically a cable with that Prodeso underlayment. And obviously it looks quite a bit different. Can you kind of tell us what we're looking at here, how to make heads and tails of this?
Yeah, it tells us right here what our product is. It's roll number one. Roll number one is 180-foot cable. Tells us what the amp draw is, tells us what the ohms are supposed to be and the cold lead, and it shows us where it starts here with the triangle. It shows us where it ends here with the square. And it shows you how to route that cable back and forth in the Prodeso membrane to get it towards the end. If you look here, there is a red dot. The location of the red dot indicates the halfway mark of your cable. So this is 180 feet. This would be the 90-foot mark. And you can see that if you've used all your cable, or if you've used you're getting already the marking, the white spot on your cable is showing up here. It means that you have the cables too close together. If you have this, the white spot on your tape over here instead of over here, it means you put it too far apart. So the most important thing that when you're looking at this is to look at these green numbers. These green numbers tell you how far away the wire is from the wall. Because if you don't follow these and see where it says 5¼ here, if you make this 1 inch, you're going to be using up more cable because you're going from this space, you're making, oh, I'm going to make the space like this. Well, when you start doing this, you start using more cable per run as opposed to this, where it's cable from here to here. So if you change those distances, you'll change your coverage. So this makes sure that you do the spaced at 3.75, which is 3 studs. And it also tells you how far away these wires go from the wall. Here you can see actually the cable running under the toe kick. That we always want cable under the toe kick, but never under the vanity, just in the toe kick, because you can never put electric heating wire under a permanent fixture like a vanity.
Definitely good to know. And another smart plan with cables. However, this is with our fixing strips, and this is utilizing sleepers, which is often going to be the case if you're doing some kind of nailed hardwood. So can you kind of tell us how that works or how those are compatible?
Yeah, the nailed hardwood, you're going to ask the manufacturer of your hardwood, how often does it have to have nails in it? What's the nail rate? Is it every 6 inches? Is it every 8 inches? Is it every foot? Is it every 16 inches? Whatever that is, because that's going to determine the width of these sleepers. And these sleepers are these blue dots here. Okay, so what you do then is once you tell us the distance between these, you then can make the wires go back and forth in between them. So we also need to know which way it's going. Like in this drawing, the wood is going like this. If it were going like this, the sleepers would have to turn. They always have to be perpendicular because then they can nail in. So that's what you need to look out for there. So here the spacers are 12 inches apart. So that tells us every 3 inches, we can do 4 runs of cable, 1, 2, 3, 4 in between those. And these sleepers are usually about 1.5 to 2 inches thick, and they're 3/8 of an inch high. Because what you're going to do is you are going to put these down and you're going to cover them with self-leveling to the top of that sleeper. And that's going to heat that wire. That wire is embedded in self-leveling. And then you have a nice flat floor. You have the sleepers at the same height as the self-leveling. So then you've got a nice flat floor for the wood to sit right on top of. If you don't get that, if you get a distance between the self-leveling and the wood, it can trap heat there because air acts as an insulator. You want that self-leveling and you want your wood to sit right on top of that. So those are the things we need to know. Which direction is the wood going? How often does it need to be nailed? And also what the maximum temperature is, because you'll want to adjust that on your thermostat so it never goes above that.
Absolutely. And last but not least, or actually we have 2 more, so disregard. Second to last but not least is our smart plan showing the shower heating. And this is really important because it's actually showing, if you notice, the shower is on is a separate cable. So can you kind of tell us why that would be?
Well, showers are normally thicker than bathroom floors because you have to slope them down to the drain. So sometimes, depending on who's doing your job, it could be 2 inches, 3 inches thick at some points, where in the regular part of the bathroom, it's only an inch. So that inch high is going to heat much quicker than the 3 inches of mass. It's just you're heating, you have more thermal mass to heat. So you're going to do that. Also, another benefit is if somebody ever comes in here later and says, you know what, I'm going to change this drain, or we've got a drain problem, I need to get in there and break that drain out and put a new one in, and then you hit the wire. If you hit the wire and you damage it, you can just say, hey, you know what, we're just going to leave it alone. The rest of the bathroom works because it's on its own cable. We'll just go ahead and leave this one alone because they've ruined it because they've ripped up the whole thing. So that's one benefit of you. If you ever have trouble with your plumbing, it would behoove you to have 2 cables. That way, if something happens in that shower, they need to redo it, it doesn't damage the rest of the heat in the rest of the room. You can also put that separate cable on a separate thermostat too, so you heat it up in advance and you heat it up hotter than the rest of the room. So it gives you more flexibility depending on what you want your system to do. But that's the
Definitely.
difference. Yeah, I actually did this bathroom, and this is a curbless shower, and we waterproofed the whole thing. We've got a video of this installation on our website. So check that out.
Awesome. And then looking at Environ, this is a very similar smart plan to the flex rolls or the temp zone flex rolls. And that's because, again, it's the same concept of cutting and turning. So you're, again, going to see exactly how far from the wall you need to be, exactly how far you'll be letting each run go before cutting and turning it. The one main difference here is you can see that around the edges of the room, there's a lot more space. So can you kind of tell us why that perimeter is the way that it is?
Yeah, this is done in carpeting in the United States. You can't heat carpeting in Canada unless your local code says you can. The distance of 1 foot around the perimeter is for the carpet stretcher to have something to be able to grab into the carpet without hitting the heating cable. If you did this wall to wall, as soon as that person came in with the carpet stretcher, there's a pretty good chance that they'd hit the wires and when they're trying to stretch it. So that's why there's always a perimeter around the room to allow the stretcher to get at different angles and have something to grab into and put it over the tack strip. If you didn't do that, you'd be in trouble.
Yes, definitely. And we do come into run into that somewhat often.
Mhm.
So looking at our thermostat options, you can see that we have 4 options available currently. The Inspire Touch is definitely our most popular. It is a super user-friendly interface. It gives you the option to program all 7 days of the week so that you don't have to ever worry about or think about your floor heating. It'll just turn on and off for you as needed. We also have a Wi-Fi option for this as well, and the main difference is that that will give you a weather indicator on the actual thermostat face, as well as the ability to control the flooring system from an app on your phone. Then we also have the non-programmable in trust, and that's a really great model if you have a space that you're heating seasonally. Maybe you turn it on every winter and you just don't turn it off until it gets warm again. Or if you have a flooring type that shouldn't have a lot of variation in the temperature. So especially we see this with wood, certain types of wood, they don't want you to have much or any fluctuation in the temperature. So you would want to just kind of let this turn on, set it, and forget it. We do also offer the enhanced programmable thermostat. So can you kind of tell us, Scott, in which situations we'd recommend that be used?
The enhance is for people that have the old thermostats that have the knob on the front. We call them temperature regulators. It's 0 to 10, like a volume control. So if you have one of those old controls, that works as a regulator. You turn it up to a certain amount and it keeps it at that temperature forever. If you want to cool it down, you turn it down, it keeps it at that temperature forever, but you adjust it with a knob. This one is adjusted by up or down. And it does other things, but the reason why we have it is for people that have the old dials where they need a regulator mode to replace those. So that's what those are recommended for. The Entrust, like you said, is a great combination for flooring that doesn't allow setbacks, which means if it says maximum temperature of 84 and it has to stay at 84 from when you turn it on to when you turn it off, like a hardwood floor, hardwood floors they say no setbacks. You can go up to 82, but you can't go 82, 70, 82, 70, 82, 70 every day because that's not what the manufacturer wants. So if they say, hey, there's no setback temperatures, and usually it's the most expensive floors too, which is kind of weird because you're using the least expensive to control the most expensive floors. So that's a great match for that. That's what those two on the right do.
And just to briefly touch on our options for our radiant crystal options for our thermostats, we have some of these really, really unique models available. If you'd like to, match your home decor, if you want to make sure that this is really individualized to your personal taste, we can definitely chat about our really beautiful radiant crystal options available. So, moving on to some of the tools that we have available to help you plan out your system to make your heating journey as simple as possible. We offer an instant quote building tool on our website, and this is available 24/7. You can check it out at our website. There's lots of different places on the site where you can access the instant quote builder. And this is going to give you, it's going to ask you a few questions about your project, answer them as specifically as you can. And then from there, it's going to show you the options that you have. And as you can see in the layout or in the picture here, we'll show you a video of how each of those systems is installed and how they work, as well as all of the actual electrical specs. And Scott, can you kind of touch on the pricing differences in the systems that we have up here?
Yeah, the temp zone flex roll, it just rolls out and you cut it and turn it. It's a faster application, less labor, and that's why it's the most expensive. But then what I like to point out to people are the bottom two choices: temp zone cable with the membrane and temp zone cable without the membrane. Remember, we talked about not every single floor needs a membrane. So the thing is, if you have a choice between this product at 868, and you have a floor that's very solid, doesn't have a lot of deflection, doesn't need a membrane, an anti-fracture membrane, you can save yourself about $300 by leaving out the membrane. So remember, not every single floor needs a membrane. And if it doesn't, then why not get the cable and fixing strips and save yourself a bundle of money?
Absolutely. So our next tool on our website is our design tool, and this is really great if you would like to utilize it to draw up your plan to send in for a smart plan. So this way, if you don't have, an architect's layout or something like that, you're able to actually draw your room and customize it on our site. You can add fixtures, things like cabinets, bookshelves, any kind of furniture that you want to be heating around instead of underneath. All of that can be drawn up and added here and then sent to us for a smart plan. And then our heat loss calculator is one of my favorite tools. It's a really great way to ensure that the heat that you're putting in is going to give you the results that you're looking for. And Scott, can you kind of tell us a little bit about the science and the math behind the heat loss calculator?
If you're thinking of doing a floor heating project as the sole source of heat in a room, you need to know how many BTUs that room needs to be warm. Then you take the BTU supplied by our product and say, the BTU supplied is more than you need, it's going to be plenty. If you have a room that has a bunch of exterior walls, if you have a room that has a bunch of exterior windows, if you have a room that has skylights, if you have a room that's got a fireplace, any of those things, all those things I named are an exterior door. Those are all gigantic heat loss items. That means they let heat disappear, which means they let the BTUs leave the room. Well, you've got so many BTUs that you're making, and if you put a room that's like a sieve, all those BTUs are just going to go out. You want a room that has a lot of or very little heat loss. So a room, that's a huge bathroom with 11-foot ceilings, 3 exterior walls, giant windows on each wall with skylights in the windows. That room is probably going to have too much heat loss to heat. That's why that room is always going to feel cold, because your furnace can't keep up with it either. All the heat disappears. So that room is a lot different than a room that's on the second story above a kitchen, like in a house with one exterior wall with a little tiny window above a kitchen where the floor is already starting at 75 degrees or warmer. You don't need as many BTUs in that room as you do this giant bathroom with 3 exterior walls full of windows and skylights. So they're two different rooms. A lot of people can't get that concept in their head. Is like, I put a full roll of heater in this floor. Why is this room still cold? And then you walk into the room and you can see it's like a cathedral. It's like walking into a giant cathedral that's just cold, and all the heat is going somewhere else. So that's what the heat loss calculator is going to do. You're going to put in each wall. You're going to put in, if in that wall, is there a window? If so, what is the size of the window? Is there an exterior door there? How high are your ceilings? You're going to put all that information in there. Are there skylights up there? How many? And then it'll say, okay, this room needs this many BTUs. The system that goes in the floor can provide that and cover it. You're good. If it can't, if it's just too much for it to overcome, then you're going to need a secondary source of heat besides that floor. So this is going to tell you right off the bat what you can put in that room. And you may have a room that takes 3,000 BTUs and our system will be supplying you 2,800 BTUs. On the coldest day, it won't be able to keep up. But if that's the case, you just buy one of those little area heaters and there's your extra 300 BTUs that you need for that coldest day of the year. So it'll tell you, that's what the little graph is over here. It'll say, here's what the temperature you want. Here's the days that it can work. And here's the days that it may not work if you don't have enough heating. So it's very, very good. If you're thinking about sole source of heating, this is the first step you want to take.
Absolutely. And that heat loss calculator, usually it includes a general operating cost as well, correct, Scott?
And it'll tell you, it'll work 90% of the time. It'll work 100% of the time. All that information. And yeah, because it'll tell you what the product is in the floor, what it will supply and what it will cost. And then it's part of that plan.
Definitely. So then the operating cost calculator is a really great option if you aren't looking at or not ready to do a full heat loss calculation yet, and you just want a kind of idea of what the system will be costing you to run day in and day out. It's kind of a common misconception that these are really expensive to run or really inefficient, and that really isn't true, and you can really see it. Playing out here, we have an operating cost calculator for our floor heating and for our snow melting systems, where you can pick the system, the size of it, the energy rates in your area, and then at the bottom in that daily usage bar, you can actually play with that slider to see what the system will cost to run per day, per month, per year, depending on the number of hours that you're running it.
And the thing is with radiant heat, a lot of people that have never used radiant heat in the floor heat they think like forced air. Okay, I have a thermostat that pumps out forced air throughout the entire house to keep the entire house warm. This radiant heat, we say put a thermostat in each room that you want radiant heat. And if there's nobody going to be in that room that day, don't turn it on. And then what you can do is you can set your thermostat for your main HVAC furnace. You can set it down to 65, or you can set it to 64 or whatever, and just have, if you're in the living room from 5 till 9 p.m., then you heat the living room. And then when you're done there, you turn the heat off and you go into the bedroom. Or if you're in the bathroom in the morning, you heat it for the hour or two that you're there and then turn it down. That's the thing, is these systems are designed to heat the area when you're in it. When you're not in it, like if you're in the basement, like if you have radiant floor heating in the basement, but you only have people in your basement 2 times a year at Christmas and at Thanksgiving, there's no need to run it those other 363 days, right? So it's one thing to think about is if there's no one there, you don't have to have it on. It's not like a furnace. So you can really save yourself. And you know what? We're here from 5 until 8 instead of 5 until 9. I'll change the schedule on my thermostat. I'll shave an hour off of that. And then you can play with that in that slider there at the bottom. You can change the hours from 4 hours to 3 hours or 8 hours to 7. And you can see how that will affect your operating costs. So it's really a fantastic tool.
Definitely. So this is definitely your area of expertise, Scott. Can you kind of tell us what tools you want to have while working on your floor heating installation?
Yeah, you don't need a lot of specialized tools. You're using scissors, you're using um, general things you're going to have laying around the house, but you are going to need a digital ohm meter, and you want to buy one that is inexpensive because you want on a dial, you want to be able to set it to 200 and to 20K. You don't want to go out and buy a $500 self-ranging meter because they are very difficult to use. So buy an inexpensive one that lets you choose your ohms ratings. And you're also going to want a circuit check. You're going to test your product when you get it with your digital ohm meter to make sure it matches the value that it should. And then the day of the installation, you measure it again, make sure everything's good, because you don't want to install a product that got damaged on the way to your house. It doesn't make any sense. I'm going to take this product. I've just tested it. It doesn't work. I'm going to put it in my floor now. Who would do that? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. So you want to make sure it's good. And the way you test it is you test it the day of the installation. You put the circuit check on and then you lay it out on the floor because you do your cuts and turns or you lay it out the cable. And then after you're done laying it out, you disconnect the circuit check, you test it with a digital ohm meter again, make sure your readings match what they were just a few minutes ago. Then you put the circuit check back on and now I can start putting thin set over the top. If that alarm doesn't go off, I'm usually in pretty good shape. I don't need to worry about it. Then at the end, I'm going to do my ohms test again. It should match what I did in the morning. And that way I know that every step of the way, I had a good result. You must get a digital ohm meter. Do not get an analog meter with that needle that goes back and forth. I want this to play in your brain every time you think of analog meters. No, no, no. Do not get an analog meter. They're almost impossible to use. Our forefathers, I don't know how they did anything with the manual analog meter because they were miracle workers. So thank goodness they did.
And then we do offer a troubleshooting kit. So if there is any issue that comes up, if your product gets damaged, if something heavy falls on it, or there's some kind of issue, we do rent out equipment to help really get that back up and running. Can you kind of tell us what these fancy tools are and what we're looking at here?
Yeah, that's why I'm all dressed up today because I just went out and fixed the floor. So I'm kind of in my fix a floor outfit today, where somebody had installed the heating cable, but they didn't cover it with thin set, so it overheated. Um, our heating wires and temp zone heating wires must all be embedded in thin set. They need to be. That's the UL listing requirement. It's a National Electric Code requirement. It must be embedded in thin set. And the installer ran it in front of a door under really thick uh, tile. It's more like slate, and they didn't bother to put it in thin set. So it overheated in that spot, or something fell down and hit it and damaged it like a rock or something. So we had to find that, and we fixed it. We used all these tools here. You use this gray box here is a high pot. You use it to create a short in the floor. Then you heat the floor using the variable AC transformer. You dial that from 0 volts up to 120 volts, usually 5, 10, 15 volts. And that'll heat that short up. And then with the thermal camera that you have down here, you can see where that heat stops is where the short is. And that's the spot where you break up the tile and make your repair. One of the oldest incorrect stories in the radiant floor heating business are electricians that go, yeah, there's an open circuit here. You're going to have to rip your entire floor up. It cannot be fixed. And there's nothing further from the truth because I just fixed one 2 hours ago. So and using these every single one of these tools that's on this sheet, I use today. So that's what they're there for. And you may never have to use them. That's a good thing, but they're very expensive. So most electricians don't have this stuff laying around. So we rent them out to people who need them. We work with local electricians because most electricians won't have $5,000 of equipment to fix a problem they may never see. So but you can fix a floor. A floor that isn't functioning correctly can be repaired. It does not need to be ripped up.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great point to hammer home. And then going on to our snow melting systems, these are very similar to our indoor floor heating. I think, Scott, you like to say it's kind of like floor heating on steroids. This is going to be a little bit stronger. It's designed to actually warm up, driveways, walkways, anything like that, and keep that snow from accumulating.
Yeah, what's really, really strong and really, really big and really, really green?
Shrek.
Well, I don't know if he's as strong as, that's pretty good. I didn't even think of him. I was thinking more like the Hulk. Isn't the Hulk green?
Yes.
He's like severely on steroids, but the Hulk, this is like Hulk heating wire. So it does the same thing. It has more watts per linear foot, which means it gets hotter than the stuff that goes in your house. Remember at the very beginning, we talked about temp zone. It's great for indoors. This is the stuff that's great for outdoors. So it's the cable in your house is about 3.7 watts per linear foot. This is about 12 watts per linear foot. So you can see that makes a big difference. So it needs to be embedded in a solid system, which means it cannot go in gravel. You cannot heat a gravel driveway with this. It must be in asphalt, or it must be in concrete, or it must be under pavers, according to the National Electric Code. Other than that, it works fantastic, and it's designed to melt the system, melt the snow out there on your sidewalks or on your patio or wherever you want it to be, a driveway. It's either on or off. You can't regulate the temperature of this stuff. So you can't say, hey, I'm going to put this on my patio and turn it up to 80. It doesn't do that. It's either on all the way or it's off all the way. So this is great for melting snow.
And then the smart plan, this is actually showing a driveway you worked on, correct, Scott?
Yep, yep. This is an asphalt driveway, and an asphalt driveway is 2 pours of asphalt. Don't let an asphalt
Yes.
installer say, we're just going to put this on the gravel, then we'll cover it with 3 inches of asphalt. That is incorrect. You don't do it that way. You put a binder coat down, and then you lay the product out onto the binder coat, and then you come and you dump asphalt over the top. You do not use a paving machine over the top. You simply dump asphalt onto the top, and you spread it out, and then you back your way out the driveway. We have a video of this exact driveway on our website, and that's how you do that installation. So if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, you know what, I'm going to do that in 1 pour, you're going to go, okay, thank you, I'm going to move on to the next one, because that's the way you need to do it. So because it's asphalt, it does have an over temperature sensor, and the over temperature sensor is required in some states, no matter what the surface is. But it's especially prevalent for asphalt, because in the summertime, you don't want the system to come on if your asphalt is already at 80 degrees, or already, you don't want it to come on because it can turn it to soup. We've never had anybody complain about that, because every job that we've quoted has come with this controller that uses this, but I've never seen one turn to soup either. But it's required by some code in some states, and otherwise it's just a secondary way to make sure that your system doesn't come on in the summertime.
And we're going to get to that in just a moment, but just to briefly touch on, we do have lots of options available in terms of how to turn that system on and off, whether it's automated or not. So we'll go into all that in just a moment. And then the snow melting cable attachment grid. This is a really great product to help make that installation easier. Can you kind of tell us where it would be used or what we're looking at here?
This is great to tack down underneath pavers, because then you tack it down, you attach the wire to this, and that holds it in place. Then you can start putting sand over and then putting your pavers on top of it, because you never ever want the pavers to sit directly on the sand. You want to make sure that these cables stay nice and flat. That way you can tack it down at each, like if you have a 20-foot square patio, tack it down in each corner, make it nice and tight, and then run your cable back and forth, then pour your sand and set your pavers. Also, it's very good for people that are putting in, using existing concrete stairways, especially in cities where they have exposed concrete, but they want to put snow melting underneath of a limestone cap. You'll see a lot of these in Chicago. Everybody has one on their stoop. Limestone caps, limestone stairs with a limestone capped area at the top and a limestone capped area at the bottom. And what that allows you to do is allows you to screw this into each step and then run your cable back and forth on the step to hold it in place while you're putting mortar over the top and setting those products down into it.
Yeah, that's definitely a big Chicago thing over here.
Primarily for spacing. It's the thing it's there for is to keep your cable spacing the same. You never want cables to overlap. You never want them to butt up against each other, because wherever that spot is, they can fail. They can overheat there and fail. They're supposed to be at least 2.5 inches apart.
And then talking about the controllers. So you'll want to pick first how you want the system to run, or how you plan to be utilizing it day to day in the winter. So you're going to pick between an automatic control or a manual timer. And can you kind of tell us, Scott, what the difference is, why you would want to pick one or the other?
A manual timer, if you're home all the time, like if you work from home, you can use a manual timer. I'm going to go turn it on. it's starting to snow, and you can actually turn it on ahead of time so it's hot. So the pavers are hot or warm. So when the snow hits, it melts. So it's purely manual. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to turn it off. The Wi-Fi is a manual control too. You turn it on with your phone and you turn it off with your phone. If you forget to turn off the Wi-Fi switch, you will have a gigantic electric bill because it will stay on and on and on and on, especially the last summer. I mean, the last snow of the year going through the summer. The last thing you want to be doing is heating up your driveway all summer long. So the Wi-Fi is great if you want to turn it on or off with your phone. Hey, look, everybody, I just turned on my control with my phone. You have to remember to turn it off. What's great about the timer is you set it to 10 hours and it ticks down and it turns off. There's no leaving it on by mistake. All these other units require a sensor. And when that sensor says, hey, it's 38 degrees or less and it's snowing or raining, I'm going to turn the system on. It does that. And then when it stops snowing or it gets above 38 degrees, it'll then go into an after run time where your snow melting is really two events. It's actually snowing event. And then when it quits snowing, it's in the after run event. It's one thing running and running afterwards. If you don't run it long enough afterwards, then you're going to have slush or you're not going to have a nice driveway. If you've ever been in a big city, we have this thing that used to be called the Sears Tower. It's now the Willis Tower. And if you're ever there after it snows, you can just see steam coming up off of the sidewalk. Any big building downtown, you'll see that. And that's because those sidewalks are heated and it's already melted the snow, right? So what you're waiting for it now is you're turning the water that's left behind into mist and it's dissipating and you're going to have a bone dry sidewalk. That's the idea here. Melt it, run for a while and get rid of it all and then have it evaporate. So these automatic controls do that. So that's what's so great about them. They do that. You never even have to touch them. You don't do anything. It goes on, it times out, and then it finishes. And then if it snows again, it starts up again.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like magic.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a pretty in-depth drawing showing kind of what needs to be mounted indoors versus outdoors. Scott, so can you kind of tell us what we're looking at here? And I don't know how in-depth you'd like to go.
Keep it simple.
Love it.
This part out here, these are 240-volt heating products. Over here, this stuff is 120 volts. This stuff is low volts. So that's pretty simple. But what you have is everything to the left here goes inside, which means your breaker panel is indoors. Your relay panel has to be indoors because it's an indoor rated box. It is not rated to sit outside. If it rains and this is outside, it will be full of rain. It's not designed to be outside. Your controller sits inside. And if you have a remote control override, it'll sit inside too. Everything to the right is outdoors because you can't put your high temperature limit sensor that goes in the slab. It can't be indoors. It has to be outside to work. And your aerial mounted snow sensor, which is sitting there waiting for snow to hit it, it has to be able to get hit by snow. And unless you have a really bad roof in your house, then you're not going to be getting any snow if you put that inside. So everything over here needs to be outdoors along with the junction boxes. Everything to the left needs to be indoors.
And then last but not least, looking at our snow melting sensors, this is what you'll pair with those controls to automate the system, to detect if there's moisture and what the temperature is, and to tell the system to turn on and off. We do also have our over temperature slab sensor that you talked about earlier, Scott. You can see that in the bottom, and that would be great for, if you're using a zone breaker control, if you're using the premium control, the slab sensor is a great option. And the aerial sensor can be purchased separately. So it can also help detect any changes in the atmosphere, in if it is snowing or if it's not snowing or if it's slush. It'll tell you or tell the system rather to turn itself on and off as needed.
Yeah, the aerial sensor has to be somewhere where snow hits it. We had a call from a guy today who said, my system is not turning on. It is not turning on. It's snowing and it will not turn on. Why will it not turn on? And then we said, please send us some pictures. We'll see where it is. Maybe that has something to do with it. Well, his wall was here outdoors and his sensor was put right here. The snow always fell everywhere but where the sensor is. So what I tell people if they're thinking about putting a snow system in is walk outside after it snows and see where the snow hit and see where it's bare. Wherever it's bare, you don't want that sensor to be because no snow is ever going to hit there. And if you don't have any snow there, it's not going to turn the system on. You need to go somewhere where it's going to get hit by the snow. So the first thing we did, we told this guy, okay, you have a box that's right up against the wall. You need to make a little L and get that sensor over here out of right up against the wall because it's nothing but trouble when you do that. Oh, I don't want anybody to see it. Well, you have to make a decision. Do you want your driveway melted? Or do you want somebody to go, oh no, I see somebody's snow sensor. What am I going to do? I'm going to call the HOA department. But really, it has to be somewhere where the snow is going to hit it. So ideally, the best sensor you can get is one that goes in the slab because that's where the snow melting you want to be taking place anyway, right? So if that area is covered with snow and you want it dry, the sensor should ideally sit there. The problem is that slab sensor is difficult to remove. It's difficult to replace it if you ever have to, especially if the person doesn't put it in correctly. So what a lot of people do is they take the aerial sensor because the aerial sensor, if it ever quits 10 years down the road, it stops working. You just take it off and put a new one on and you're golden. The only maintenance you have to do on an electric snow melting system is every year you clean the top of this sensor with a wet rag. That's all you have to do because birds love to sit here and birds love to leave a calling card after they've sat there. And that's the kind of stuff that you want to clean up because you don't want that to get all clogged because you can see here, there's like little cuts in it. That's allows this is heated. Okay. So when the snow hits it, it melts and it makes a connection between the ground and this outer pretty, this isn't just a pretty design. It's what's called an interdigitated grid, and it means that you have two pieces of metal that are separate from each other until the snow melts, and it makes them connect by the water, and that's what completes the circuit. So these are actually two separate pieces of metal that never touch until the water gets on there. It melts it, and then the excess water, so it doesn't pool up, it lets it run out the drains on the side. So an aerial sensor is much easier to replace, easier to work on, but you have to get it away from the house. You can't have it sitting right next to the side of the house.
Good information to have. And then we do offer some other cold weather options. We have a roof and gutter de-icing system. We actually have two options for this. We have self-regulating, where it can be cut to length, or we have our constant wattage system, which is a fixed length, a plug-in. Super easy kind of plug and play roof and gutter de-icing option. Roof and gutter de-icing is compatible with most roofing materials, and it's a really great way to help out if you get ice dams and things like that. It'll prevent any kind of damage to your roof.
Yeah, so just a quick example, if you have a steel roof, if you have a steel roof, you have to use self-regulating cable. Constant wattage cable is not allowed to go on there. So there's a way, if you have a roof, we can heat it. It just depends on, most of the time. It just depends on what type of roof it is, depending on which one of these you want. Self-regulating cable, this cable here is the only kind of cable that you can cut to length that we sell. Everything else is constant wattage, but this self-regulating cable can be cut anywhere. It's a miracle product. So that's something that you want to look out for, but that's the big difference between those two.
And then we do also have pipe freeze protection, and it's the same kind of concept. We have self-regulating and constant wattage systems for this, and they are really great to keep pipes from freezing in the winter. So again, same kind of concept for this. So we talked a lot about our products today, but I do briefly want to chat about what makes us special or why you'd want to start heating your home with us. So we really stand by our products. We offer a no nonsense warranty. We try to make everything as simple and as easy as possible. We have no restocking fees for any kinds of returns, and we are radiant experts. We have been in this industry since pretty much the beginning. We've been around well over 20 years. We have systems that have been running for years and decades, and we really pride ourselves on knowing as much as possible about radiant heating. Obviously, Scott is our one of our technical experts. He is phenomenal, and we do offer 24/7 tech support. So any time of day or night, you can reach someone. You might actually reach Scott himself or one of our other tech experts to help out with any kinds of questions or troubleshooting or concerns that you might have. Because we've
Yeah.
been around for so long, we also are have been the first to provide an online tool for project planning. So again, we try to make it as easy as possible for you to begin kind of planning out your system and knowing exactly what you're going to be getting into. We have those 24-hour turnaround on smart plans or floor plans, and you'll also get a dedicated account manager. Whether you're a trade pro or a homeowner, you're going to have someone that you can talk to directly to make sure that all your questions are answered.
Yeah, those tools that we talked about to fix, to do repairs, those tools we make available to pretty much anybody who needs them. We have, I don't know, over a dozen sets. They're very expensive, but, and we don't make any money renting them out. It's just simply the cost of getting them back and fixing them after people are done. But I'd say at least half of the units that are out there right now on rental are actually for competitors' systems. So we're glad to help wherever we can. So if you said, hey, you know what, I just bought from brand X, boy, I wish I would have talked to WarmlyYours. Don't worry, we're still going to help you. We're helping a lot of people right now who have problems with their competitors that they can't get any help with. So we're here to help everybody is the moral of the story. So
Absolutely. And I'm not seeing any questions pop up. If there are any questions, feel free to type them. While we do a little bit of housekeeping, we will have our next webinar on February 8th. Again, it's a Thursday at 1 o'clock Central Time. And we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about heating the floor in a bathroom. So be sure to join us for that. We do also offer daily trainings right here on Zoom, often hosted by me or by Scott. So these are usually shorter, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. So feel free to pop in and learn a little bit more. For January, we are offering 25% off of select towel warmers, so be sure to check out our website for more information on that promotion. And once this is over, we're going to email you a short survey just asking for some about your experience during the webinar. If you have any comments, suggestions, we would love to hear it and make sure that we are talking about what you want to hear about. Last but not least, of course, reach out with any questions, concerns. If you're looking at getting a project started and you just want to chat about it, reach out, give us a call, shoot us an email, visit our website. We would be more than happy to assist. And I believe that is all we have. So thank you so much, Scott, for all of that phenomenal information. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. As always, until next time, stay warm.
and be radiant. Thanks, everybody.